present For the Record with Neil Heinen. A discussion of the proposed F-35 fighter jet program at Truax Field is next on For the Record. Thanks for joining us. I'm Neil Heinen. The first thing to know about the effort to place the new Air National Guard jets at Truax is that it is a competitive process. Madison is bidding against other communities that want the program as well. So there is a broad base of community support for the move. There is also opposition. This morning we will explore why Madison. What does this mean for our city and our region? And what are the challenges and concerns about Truax being home for the next generation of the Wisconsin Air National Guard 115th Fighter Wing Jets? My guests are Chris Ahrens, Executive Director of the Badger Air Community Council, and Zach Brandon, President of the Greater Madison Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to For the Record, both of you. Welcome back, Zach.
Yeah, good to be here.
Thank you.
So, Chris, just give us, as good an explanation as you can, please, of exactly what is the F-35 program and why would the Air National Guard want it in Madison?
Yeah, that's great. The F-35 is the fifth generation, latest, highest technology fighter jet in the Air Force inventory. The Air National Guard has supplemented active duty Air Force for years as a reserve component of the Air Force, and it's very important that the Air National Guard trains and deploys with the same kind of equipment that our active duty brothers are doing as well.
We have F-16s currently, correct? And we've had those for a while. Are there F-35s in the air?
There are F-35s in the air. There are 4 operational bases. The most recent one is in Burlington, Vermont, Air National Guard base there, and they are just receiving their F-35s now. So we would be on the very forefront of receiving these airplanes, which is a great opportunity for Madison.
And why would the Air National Guard want to consider Madison?
Well, Madison has a long history of excellence. So that is the first part of it, is our reputation really precedes ourselves. So when they took an analysis, they looked at 18 different Air National Guard bases. Some of the criteria around that was how convenient is it to airspace. We have great facilities here in Madison, and the men and women that work there as well. So they looked at all of those components and scored them individually, and Madison came out on top of all 18 bases.
And in fact, the footprint, Chris, the region is much bigger than Madison-Dane County. Is that right?
Absolutely. So this is where they take off and land from, but there's a fairly wide swath across the middle of Wisconsin where a lot of the training takes place. Why that doesn't come up as much is that training happens at high altitude, so it's relatively undetected by anyone else in those areas.
But the proximity to Volk Field is important.
Absolutely. One of the biggest criteria when selecting a base is the proximity to the airspace. You know, there are some Air National Guard bases that have to travel hundreds of miles to their training area. In Madison, I think the longest is between 40 and 50 miles to get to that airspace. So it's incredibly efficient to train out of here. So you're not spending all of your time transiting from home base out to the training area. You're spending all of your time in the training area actually getting good training.
Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of your personal experiences with the planes and with Truax, but let me just ask you, Zach, why would Madison be so interested? And there is a significant coalition of community leaders who are working pretty hard on this. Why does Madison want this so badly?
Absolutely. I think, just to expand on something Chris said is that it is, this bigger region. It's the airspace, it's Volk Field. It's also the air wing deployment at General Mitchell in Milwaukee. Right? All this stuff works together, and that an invigorated mission in Madison has the potential to spill out and help other parts of the state as well. It gives an enhanced mission to Volk. It gives the possibility that the KC tanker replacements that will eventually happen and are happening now within the Air Force can end up in Milwaukee as well. And so this has a statewide economic impact. And that's the answer, is economic impact, is that we're talking about 1,200 jobs. Almost half of those are full-time permanent residents of the greater Madison region. These are people like Chris. Chris is essentially the face of those jobs. He is a former F-16 pilot, guardsman, but grew up in Madison, has raised his family in Madison, owns a small business with his wife in Madison. This is who we're talking about. These are the people that we see at school, that we go to church or synagogue or our mosques with. These are our friends and family and neighbors.
Let me just ask a question here, Zach, because there are some state lawmakers that have been raising some significant issues here, and one of their press releases said 65 jobs.
Right. It's completely disingenuous. In this day and age, particularly when you have an 1,100-page report, which is what this EIS is, and the amount of information you have to digest, but to dismiss what's the economic impact, which is 1,200 jobs, it's $100 million of unmultiplied economic spend. That means the base spends $100 million. And anybody in the world who's in economic development, myself included, would normally add a multiplier to that. And you could put 2 to 3% on top of that, and nobody would challenge you in this country as far as what's the economic output. Because if I hand you $1, the chances of you do nothing with that dollar is very unlikely. And that's what we're saying is the base spends $1, and then we assume it goes nowhere else. But we know it goes multiple times throughout this community. But there's $100 million a year of economic spend, of economic output. Multiply that over the life of the jet, you're talking about $3.3 billion just in this region. You're talking about fire, safety, security, bomb disposal at the airport that we as taxpayers or as travelers don't have to pay for. And you're talking about $1 million a year of tuition reimbursements that go to our colleges and universities, because Wisconsin gives every Guard member the ability to get a tuition reimbursement.
Well, I think we should even go into some greater detail about some of those. But when we talk about the region, then, so are we always talking about Milwaukee to Volk?
No, when we talk about jobs and economic impact, we are talking about Truax only. When you add in Volk and you add in General Mitchell, it has an exponential multiplier on that. And so we're saying is this has statewide impact, but the numbers that you hear, 1,200 jobs, half of them full-time, the $100 million of economic impact, $3.3 billion over the life of the jet, that's all here right now. And what's disingenuous about the elected officials, or some elected officials, who are saying, 64, 65 new jobs, 64 is what the report says, is those are new jobs. That's on top of the 1,200. And it doesn't count the 300 to 400 construction jobs that are going to be, that are going to be created in the next couple of years to do $30 million of improvements to our airport.
We're going to talk more about the impacts of this potential expansion of the program at Truax Field when we come back on For the Record right after this.
For the Record, sponsored by MG&E, your community energy company.
Really? It's car buying season at Nissan's Bottom Line Model Year-End event. Save big on the last of our 2019s, like the Tech Advanced Rogue. Get 0% financing for up to 36 months on Nissan Rogue.
Update your floors with Empire Today's $50 room sale. Buy one room, get floors for all other rooms for just $50 each. So when you buy one room, it's only $50 for laminate in the kitchen, $50 for carpet in the bedroom, and $50 for hardwood in the office. There's no limit. Buy one room, and it's $50 for floors in each additional room. Schedule now.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today.
Every internet and TV provider promises you their best, but the other guys have that. And this little mark hides some big restrictions, like the fact you have to sign a contract. And they have early termination fees. And that you'll have to pay extra for an internet modem and security software. With Spectrum, you get our best every day, with no contracts, no early termination fees, and dozens of extras free, like a free modem and security suite with Spectrum Internet, delivering more speed more consistently for the best surfing, streaming, and gaming. Get Spectrum Internet for $44.99 a month. Call 855-646-4499. Then enjoy the best in entertainment with Spectrum TV, with more HD and more free on demand. Get Spectrum TV from $44.99 a month. Upgrade to the best. Get Spectrum Internet and TV from $44.99 a month each. Call 855-646-4499.
Really? It's car buying season at Nissan's Bottom Line Model Year-End event. Save big on the last of our 2019s, like the Tech Advanced Rogue. Get 0% financing for up to 36 months on Nissan Rogue.
So we're in the middle of the public comment period, and it's quite lengthy, and we'll give you some information on that. For the expansion of the F-35 fighter jet program at Truax Field that has generated some controversy, but has a large group of public supporters looking at the potential economic impact of keeping the program at Truax. And I'm talking with Chris Ahrens, who is the Executive Director of the Badger Air Community Council, and Zach Brandon, the President of the Greater Madison Chamber of Commerce. So I don't think I fully understand all of the impact that this program has in the community. And I'd like you both to talk about it a little bit more, in particular, your experiences there as a pilot and working in this program, Chris. But then the safety program that provides for the airport itself, for the general airport, which I don't think a lot of people understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up on the east side of Madison. I grew up near Eastmoreland Park, went to Schenck Elementary School, White Horse, and then off to La Follette. So I'm a...
You're a townie.
I am. And I will tell you, the inspiration that having those airplanes in my neighborhood gave me really gave me a path to leadership in the future. So I'm one of the local guys that got lucky enough to be an F-16 pilot here in my hometown, which is very special. When we look at, the impact that's going on, the base has been around for over 70 years. They have always been extremely good community partners. I will tell you, when we start talking about how we engage with the community, and that is part of why the Badger Air Community Council was founded, is to really have a good conduit between the leadership in the military and our community. Having been on both sides, I try to help explain that. But because all of the people that work there, they live there, and they're like me, they live in the local area, they eat, they sleep, they buy houses, all of that is really important. So this is keeping the mission here is extremely important for that side of town. Absent a new mission with the F-35, the F-16s that we have here are the oldest in the inventory. So there would be a real risk of a base closure, which would be a huge negative impact if the F-35 didn't come to town.
Can you even quantify that impact?
I think it's the scale of Oscar Mayer closing, of Janesville and GM plant closing, of the Kenosha engine plant. I mean, we're talking about $100 million of economic impact that disappears. We're talking about 1,200 jobs that disappear. And we're talking about a land mass that is twice the size of Oscar Mayer. So when you're talking about the hole that it would put on the north side. And so it would be devastating. That we have weathered the Oscar Mayer loss. It has had an impact on the north side. It can be felt. Losing another 1,200 jobs on the north side and having a 130-plus acre hole of undeveloped, unusable land would be a travesty.
So describe the initial results of the draft environmental impact statement.
I think, whenever you have a study, they kind of come at it from two different ways. One is sort of the optimistic and the pessimistic. And, optimistic studies are those that say, we want to create this economic activity, and we believe the total upside to the number of jobs is X. And we see this all the time when companies move, relocate, expand, they'll give you big numbers and big jobs. This report is based on more of a pessimistic view and it's really designed by Congress to make sure that the Air Force or other government agencies, the Department of Defense, are looking at the impact around environmental contamination. So it takes a more pessimistic view. It looks at maximum potential impact. What is the impact, the maximum impact that we would expect the basing to have? And the answer there, the top line great news is that there is no contamination when it comes to soil, when it comes to water quality, when it comes to wetland. Very little impact on the environment. And so that's an important thing to say, is that one of the biggest things that the opposition has said to date is there was going to be some type of contamination from these jets. Turns out that's not true. And so when we're looking at it, we know it validated the numbers, the employment numbers, it validated the economic output numbers. It told us firsthand that there's going to be no meaningful degradation of the environment. And what we're able to do now, which is to look at sound contours and where is the noise. And what we said in the beginning, both the back and the chamber, was everybody who was talking about sound in the beginning, we said, anybody who used to tell you they knew exactly where the noise would go, they were lying. Because until the study got done, nobody would know. And now we know. And the nice thing about that is fixing soil contamination and air contamination and wetland degradation and loss of wildlife, those are hard things to solve. Sound can be mitigated. But what can't be mitigated is the loss of 1,200 jobs, the loss of $100 million of economic impact on our economy. And if we're all in the solutions business, Channel 3 and the editorial board, the back, the chamber, every elected official should be in the solutions business. Let's find the solution to make sure that we solve this challenge of noise.
The back is the Badger Air Community Council, for those who are not speaking shorthand. Chris, how many more jets? How big of an expansion is this?
Well, interestingly enough, this the mission of the F-35 very closely mirrors the F-16. So there won't be a net increase in aircraft here. The interesting thing around the sound contour and how that was developed and why you see this increase in sound is the operations that they included. As Zach mentioned, it talks about maximum potential impact. So what that does is that assumes that every single F-35 flight will happen out of Truax Field. Historically, that's just not true. We've been flying 20% or more missions outside of the Madison area, whether that might be an exercise that happens in Florida or a deployment, as the fighter wing is currently deployed in Afghanistan right now, flying those missions elsewhere. So we know right off the top when we look at operations that that is going to reduce by at least 20%, which will in turn shrink those contours. So I think when we look at it, we talk about mitigation and the different things we can do. It's not just the number of aircraft or the type of aircraft, but it's what levers can we pull to pull those noise contours in it. I'll say that we, the fighter wing and all of the pilots adhere to very strict noise abatement procedures. So when we enter into those noise abatement procedures, and they're very flexible, so that could change, you know, the flight path of the aircraft. There is still a lot of room to minimize the noise impact going forward.
All right, I want to talk a little bit more about mitigation. We're also going to talk about public involvement and how people can comment on this coming up on For the Record.
Wells Asphalt Paving, expert paving for over 40 years. Now offering $250 off your asphalt paving project. For residential and commercial, from new construction to replacements, call today and save at Wells Asphalt Paving.
My dentist had retired, and it came to a point where I did need to find somebody fast because I had a dental emergency. I called Aspen Dental, and they assessed it right away. We're going to get you out of pain right now and be able to keep the tooth because that was really important to me. And she sat down, this is what we're looking at. Financially, can you work with this? That was being treated royally.
At Aspen Dental, we're all about yes. Like yes to flexible hours and payment options. Yes to $200 off your treatment plan. And yes, we're all about the royal treatment. Call now at 1-800-ASPEN-DENTAL.
Remember when your house had this thingy? Now it has that. But with Spectrum, smart homes aren't stopping there. Because they'll have all this amazing... Yeah, okay. Soon our homes will have this and that. You get the idea. That's why Spectrum's secure, fiber-powered network is ready with the privacy you demand and the bandwidth you need, no matter how smart our homes may become.
I too am hungry.
But some things will never change. Spectrum. Think forward.
Okay, class, if it's buy one window, get one free, what happens if you bought 2 windows? Yes?
Buy 2 windows, get 2 windows free.
That's right. And how about 3 windows?
Buy 3 windows, get 3 windows free.
Now, Dave, how about if you bought 100 windows?
That'd be a lot of free windows.
That's right, plus no interest for 1 year.
Buy one, get one free, and soon. Call now.
For quality windows, siding, and doors, call 866 for Feltco.
Wells Asphalt Paving, expert paving for over 40 years. Now offering $250 off your asphalt paving project. For residential and commercial, from new construction to replacements, call today and save at Wells Asphalt Paving.
My guest on For the Record, Chris Ahrens, the Executive Director of the Badger Air Community Council, and Zach Brandon, the President of the Greater Madison Chamber of Commerce, and we are talking about the proposed F-35 jet program at Truax Field. So the concern about noise and the expansion of noise, talk more about mitigation. What, in addition to fewer flights, Chris, and pilot activity can be done to mitigate the noise?
You know, I think first off we have to understand there's three, well, maybe four types of noise that come from the airport. There is the military jets, which is what we're talking about. There are the cargo jets, the FedEx, UPS jets. There are the commercial jets, and then there are the private, the private planes that fly in and out of Truax or Dane County Regional Airport. The commercial side of this, and the cargo side of this are growing rapidly. We at the Chamber spent a lot of time working on direct flights, and direct flights mean bigger, wide-body jets and more people, and that's a sign of a growing economy, and we should all celebrate that. Those are things that we want. Most of the complaints, and so what Dane County gets from a noise complaint standpoint happen around commercial and cargo aircraft. The smallest of those is the military aircraft. So for people who are saying this is about noise, just know that the numbers don't sort of back that up, and people should, when debating or discussing this with somebody, even elected officials who say this is about noise, really push, because at the end of the day, most of them don't live in the area and are affected more by the thought of what they consider to be war machines in a military industrial complex, and less about the sound, because again, the sound can be solved. There's a solution to that. And so when we look at the mitigation opportunities, we know the areas, and as Chris said, there is the maximum potential impact, and then there's reality. And we know that there's a bunch of factors, many that Chris named, that we think will shrink the noise contours, that will push it back up closer to the airport. But we're not ignoring it, and we're not saying that it's tough luck for those that live in these potentially impacted areas, and that we think there is a community solution. And that solution can be, as Chris said, the changing of flight patterns. Like if we know that if we take off different certain ways, that provides a change to the noise contour. We know that if there can be construction changes to whether that's soundproofing at the base as far as distribution of noise using barriers, but there's also an opportunity in situations to change out windows, which is you're seeing this around airports around the world. They're helping solve these problems. This is not something new. Airports all around the world are helping mitigate noise, and so we have plenty of experience on how it's done and what can be done, and we should be talking about what that is that we want to do as a community. It's a community process, and one that we should all engage in.
So from a pilot's perspective, did he cover it all, Chris?
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
So explain the process now. We're kind of in the middle of it. It's a final decision is still, a good 6 months out, right?
Yeah, so I think right now is the opportunity for supporters to speak. This is an open comment period.
Supporters and opponents.
And opponents as well. Anybody who has a view on it, quite honestly, this is the time for them to speak. There will be a public hearing on September 12th at 5 o'clock at the Alliant Energy Center. Everyone is welcome to attend that and voice
Is this the
their
first
opinion.
public hearing? Have there been others? This is the big one, huh?
This is, yes. Okay. This is the one, and it's all around, commentary on the environmental impact.
Based on the draft EIS.
There was an open house in the first process, but this will be the opportunity for the public to engage in the federal process.
Absolutely. And then aside from that, it is an ongoing, starting now, an ongoing open comment period through September 27th, I believe, where citizens can go online and make their comments around their interest in the EIS as well.
Who makes the final decision?
The Air Force.
So the general, the
Secretary
of the Air Force makes the final decision.
Yep. And Chris highlighted, but it's important, this public process, this is the opportunity to have your voice heard. So anyone who's saying either pro or con, who says, I want to make sure my voice is heard, I want to make sure that my comments are heard, this is the opportunity to do that. And so don't miss this opportunity, that you have the opportunity to submit in writing, either on the website or send emails up until the 27th of September. But you also have the opportunity to stand in front of an Air Force judge and make your case why you think it isn't the right place or it is the right place.
Are other communities continuing to bid on this, Zach?
So there are 5 that are going through the same process, as
yep,
us.
yep.
2 of them have been selected, us in Montgomery, Alabama, but all 5 are going through the same exact process. They've had an EIS report, they have a public hearing, they're going to have, or they will have a public hearing, they have a public comment period that's open right now. You know, I think the Air Force knows that it needs to start to phase out the F-16, particularly the 30 block. These are 30-year-old jets. You know, it's not just the United States. Israel's getting rid of all of theirs as well. It's just these 4th-generation aircraft have started to lose their effectiveness. It's just something happens after you fly a jet for 30 years. I think Chris can tell you better than I can.
Have you flown an F-35?
I have not flown an F-35.
Will you?
No,
Okay.
I have retired and past that, yes.
All right, September 12th at the Alliant Energy Center, big public hearing.
And let me just say one more thing. And Chris has too. We have both heard F-16s next to F-35s. Human ear. Right, they have flown by us. And I mean, as somebody who believes strongly in the quality of life, as somebody who has raised his family and has grown up here, I think we can both tell you we've heard them both. And to the human ear, other than maybe some tonal difference, it isn't any different. And so when we're talking about maximum potential impact, just know that reality is something less than that. And we are working night and day to make sure that the impact on this community is only upside. It is the economic impact. It's the jobs. It's the things that we should all be celebrating. And let's focus on solutions.
Thank you both very much. We're going to come back and wrap up For the Record right after this.
MG&E, building a community energy company for the future through the power of working together, committed to cleaner, more sustainable energy, driven by innovation, fostered by shared values. Energy2030together.com.
For over 30 years, Denver Mattress has been crafting factory direct mattresses with innovative design and unrivaled quality, improving the sleeping lives of millions of people one night at a time. And during the anniversary sale, save up to $700 on Tempur-Pedic adjustable mattress sets and get a free $300 Furniture Row gift certificate.
For a better tomorrow tonight, check out the Summit Queen, only $199.99.
Plus, 4 years, no interest financing.
Denver Mattress, the easiest way to get the right mattress.
You got your homework?
Yeah.
Yeah? Hey.
What's the role of a car company? To take your kids to and from school?
Don't forget your science project.
We think it can be something bigger.
Everybody take your seats. Today we're going to...
This summer, Volkswagen is supporting America's teachers. Visit your VW dealer to learn how you can join in. Hurry in during the Volkswagen Drive Bigger event and lease a Value Pack 2019 Tiguan S4 Motion for just $249 a month.
It's the Fleet Farm Stock Up Sale. This week, you get huge savings when you stock up on things like Zeo-Tab salt. 40-pound bags are $4.79. Fleet Farm bottled water. 24 packs are $5 for $10. Shredded colored mulch. 4 bags for $10. And sunflower hearts. A 14-pound bag is $14.99. This week only, it's stock up season at Fleet Farm. Fleet Farm. Built for real life.
MG&E, building a community energy company for the future through the power of working together, committed to cleaner, more sustainable energy, driven by innovation, fostered by shared values. Energy2030together.com.
My thanks to Chris Ahrens and Zach Brandon, and to you for joining us. We'll see you next week on For the Record.